Gentlemen, my name is Shannon McGurk of Authentic Masculinity, and I have to tell you, I'm very excited. I'm excited because right now, you are living with me the emotions of creating a successful project. One of the things that I'm a big believer in is that problems are good. The trick is you want to constantly exchange your problems for higher quality problems, right? If you're at a point in your life where it's a big problem to have a flat tire, I'm telling you right now, that's a warning sign. You need to change the quality of your problems. The problems I'm experiencing right now are when, where, and how to improve with technology on the message we're trying to get to you. And I'm very excited to say that when we started this project 2 years ago, we had no idea where it was going to go. We had no idea what it was going to look like, and I had no idea of the powerful friendships I was going to forge as we built this business. This is my way of saying to you that as you're going through a process that I hope is similar to mine, you're on a journey, you're learning, you're leading others, you're growing. Never compromise the quality of your content for the quality of the packaging. A great good friend of mine was talking about if you have a solid content and you have solid packaging, that's the most powerful combination. What we're going to do right now is we're going to give you better content and better packaging. The packaging is on either end of this, but the content is from 2 years ago. I hope you enjoy it. We look forward to hearing your feedback and input. You are members of the Authentic Nation. Please let us know how we're doing. I'll talk to you in just a moment. Well, gentlemen, I'm back in the truck again. It's one of my favorite places, and you can call this a stereotype if you like, but one of the reasons it's one of my favorite places is I can control everything that's happening in this truck. I can see who's around me, I can lock the doors, I can turn off my phone, and I can talk with you. We're down to our last 2 episodes of the Why You Matter as a Man series for Authentic Masculinity, and these are my 2 favorites. They're the most traditional, but I don't think that's why they're my 2 favorites. They're my 2 favorites because I think they're the most impactful on a day-to-day basis. I mean, they're the most impactful on a practical day-to-day basis, and I think we can discuss them at the greatest length when it comes to things you can do today and things that I think you'll find reassuring about what I say about each of them. And that is the provider and the protector. We're going to talk the provider first. So this is segment 4 or episode 4 of the 5-part series. In episode 1, we did the prince. Episode 2, it was the priest. Episode 3, so prince is the authority of a man. Number 2, priest is the spiritual head of your family or the organization or the unit, those you love and lead. That's the term that I like to use. Number 3 is the prophet. This is the educational aspect of being a man. And then 4th will be the provider. 5th will be the protector. I want to go back and say something that we're talking both interior focus and intimate personal focus, but also the focus that we should take or assert in the society. So you matter as a man, as a prince, as a priest, as a prophet, as a provider, as a protector, both for those you love and lead, but also in the society at large. The society that we live in, no matter where we are as men, will be healthier when men are fulfilling these 5 roles. So let's dig right into the provider role. The first thing we're going to do, and you'll see a pattern developing here, is we're going to ask ourselves the 5 critical questions. Who am I? Who do I see myself as a provider? What am I? How do others see me as a provider? 3, where am I on my journey as a man, as a provider? 4th, what time is it in my life as a provider? And then 5th, why do I need to be a good provider? Why do I want to be a better provider? Let's go down them one by one. Who do you see yourself as a provider? One of my mentors said that when we were looking for people to work with, we were looking for young men who had a paper route as a child. Now, what does that say about that particular individual? It says that they have a work ethic. It says that from an early age they wanted to be financially sort of in it for themselves, or in it making their own decisions, having access to their own money. What's your first experience with money as a young boy or a young man? I can say I did have a paper route as a child. I can also say, if you read about it, I lied to the Boy Scouts to get in. And then while I was at Boy Scout camp, while I was there, I also undertook my first entrepreneurial effort. I did services for the other boys for money. I'd blow up the air mattresses, I'd carry things, I would do sort of odd jobs around the camp, and they would pay me for it. And I thought that was pretty cool. Now, in hindsight, it probably wasn't very wise of me, but I was just heady. I was so excited to be in this environment of boys that I liked and admired, and it sort of brought out all of my better qualities, I thought. Now, in hindsight, maybe that wasn't so wise. I only tell that story and shine the light on myself in regard to that first question of who I see myself as when it comes to being a provider. To give you an example, I lied to get my first job. We see a pattern of lying here. Okay? I lied to get my first job because I really wanted to get in the game. These are the questions you have to ask yourself. Who are you as a provider? Who do you see yourself as a provider? Ask yourself these deep, introspective, probing questions so you can learn about yourself as a provider. Who am I as a provider? Do I like to work? Do I like to work hard? And don't shy away from answering the question honestly with yourself. Let me recommend a little exercise just to give you an idea of the power of the written word. Ask yourself these questions and then write the answers down, especially if they embarrass you. Let's say you say, you know what, Shannon, I don't like to work hard. I'm a little bit lazy. Usually what that means is you see yourself as lazy because you don't like working hard at things you consider to be hard work. I'll give you an example. I'm bored by certain things that are purely process related. If I can't see an end to the process bores me to tears. If I can see an end to the process that's logical and helpful and practical that I can apply quickly, then I'll work on process. If you were to watch me trying to apply myself to process-oriented tasks that I didn't see the logical outcome of, you would conclude that I was lazy. I like physical labor. I don't mind doing hard physical labor as long as I can see progress being made. I think most of us are like that as a rule, as men. My point here is ask yourself these questions. Am I industrious? Am I lazy? How do I like to work? What are my work efforts? What are my work habits? Where do I like to apply my effort? Do I like to be an intellectual worker? Do I like to be a physical worker? What is the link I see between these two? All of these will help you drive down and get down to that core sort of understanding of who you are as a provider. Do you like being independent? Now, I'm going to pause here for a moment and think, because we're going to give you some other resources that you might want to use as you consider your options in this new economy. But those won't be helpful until we answer these questions first. So let's focus on who are you as a provider? What do you know about yourself? Next, go to what are you as a provider? On this question, you can answer it in terms of what is your current occupation? What sort of a job do you have? Are you an employee? Are you self-employed? Are you a business owner? Are you an investor? You could be any one of those four kinds of earners and be listening to this episode, this series. You could have landed at Authentic Masculinity having occupied any of those four sources of income. Because what we're talking about, Authentic Masculinity, is something that affects all men. This is exciting because even if you're in a relatively modest position as an earner, let's say you don't earn a lot of money as an employee, you're early in your life and you're learning as you go, by stumbling onto Authentic Masculinity or by having come to us intentionally, we can give you access to high net worth individuals who are men who've done many, many different kinds of tasks to get where they are today, because I can guarantee you we have those men listening to this presentation as well. So you should be excited. Now, what kind of a provider are you? What would others say about you? Would they say, well, that's Shannon. He's worked at McDonald's. He's shoveled manure. He's worked with horses. He's been a waiter. He's been a ditch digger. He's been a janitor. He's cleaned toilets. I've done all of these things. He's been a consultant in the health and beauty industry. He's been in direct sales. He's been in internet marketing. He's started businesses. I've started many businesses. Real estate. I don't mean to shine the light on myself, but I want to give you an example of the sorts of answers you can expect to give back. When somebody says, all right, John, what kind of an earner have you been? What kind of a provider have you been? Have you been a consistent provider? Now, that can be a difficult and painful question to answer, because if you've been through a series of job changes and if you've been trying to find a better job, a better way to make money, you may be second-guessing yourself in terms of reliability. I would ask you to relook that question. You do have to ask yourself if you're reliable. But don't be surprised if you see in your own job history a series of changes as you've tried to find a better job, a better job, a better job. There's no shame in that. But the answers to these questions, as with the previous 3 episodes, are less important than the questions themselves. You want to get in the habit of asking yourself the 5 critical questions as you do this self-examination. Remember the theme. It isn't about you, but it starts with you. Ultimately, we're going to try to see how you can be a better provider for those you love and lead. All right. Who? What? Where are you in your journey? How many jobs have you had? How many occupations have you tried your hand at? Where are you in your journey? Do you know what works for you, and do you know what doesn't work for you? Do you know your strengths and weaknesses as a provider? I'm hesitating here because I want to pause briefly and talk about the importance of taking a job you hate. It is good to take a job you hate if it forces you to confront some of your shortcomings, to dig in and work hard, and to keep yourself hungry so that you can craft a solution that you may love more, that may give you a higher payoff later. Where are you on this journey? It's going to reveal a lot about your values. Ultimately, what do you seek as a provider? Do you seek security, or do you seek financial independence? We here at Authentic Masculinity are always going to advocate that you, no matter where you are on your journey, you aim for financial independence, and we can help you to make progress toward that goal. Where are you on your journey? How many sorts of jobs have you had? How many sorts of sources of income have you experienced? How have you made money? Where have you been happiest making money? What is your relationship to taxes? All of these things will start to come into play as you ask yourself the question, where am I on this journey? I'll give you an example. Looking at myself again as a case study. Or actually, you can think in your own sphere, in your own life. Do you know men who have been business owners? Do you know men who have been employees of their own companies? Do you know men who are self-employed? Here we're thinking plumber, doctor, attorney, realtor, a tax accountant. Are they self-employed so that they work largely on their own by themselves? What does this say to you about their values? If they're the kind of person who says, well, if I want it done right, I do it myself, then in their journey, they have probably not grown as much as they may need to grow to become financially independent. Where are you on this journey? Have you always been an employee? Have you ever started a business? Have you thought of starting a business? Have you worked as your own sort of boss, being self-employed? Have you ever hired people, either as an employee or as the owner of a business? And then finally, have you ever been an investor where you've made money strictly from money? These are all the sorts of questions you want to ask. Where are you on your journey? Now we're going to say, what time is it in your life? This is vitally important. Good news and other news on this one. If you're young and starting out, you can afford to make mistakes. If you make those mistakes, you can recover them a little bit more quickly. If you're in the third quarter of a 4-quarter game, as I am, you have to, especially if you've been taken out of the game, as I was, you've got to get up, get on your feet, get running, and find other more clever ways to supplement your income. You've got to be clever. You've got to be creative. You've got to be smart to make up some of that lost time. The reason this is important is because there's a vital link between time and money. What is your relationship between time and money in your life? Where are you on your journey? Are you young? Are you in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, or 70s? And what kind of money is coming into your life? And what kinds of concepts do you understand to make that money work as hard as it can for you? And if all of this sounds terribly beyond your reach, and I don't know, because as I've said, we have men at every level listening to these presentations. If some of these concepts seem a little foreign to you, do not be put off by that. What I'm asking you to do is stretch your thinking a little bit and ask yourself these questions. Give us your feedback and let me know how we can help you to answer these questions. Because you may not have the answers for them yet. You might not even know how to answer the questions yet. But we're going to teach you to ask the questions, and then we'll teach you how to answer them for yourself. That's what it's all about in what we're doing here. What time is it in your life? When are you in your life? Now, if you have children who turn to you for support, if you have a wife who relies on you for support, that'll also color that answer. Okay, finally, why? Why do you want to be a good provider? Do you want to be a good provider so you can give back to the community? Do you want to be a good provider because you have responsibility for a wife and children? Do you have responsibilities for elderly parents? All of these could come into play. Why do you want to be a good provider? Again, write these answers down. Let me go back very quickly to this concept of writing things down. If I'm bringing up questions that you find a little bit unsettling or difficult to answer, write the questions down, write the answers down, no matter how painful or embarrassing they are, then take that piece of paper and set it on fire, burn it. It's a very liberating process. It'll demonstrate for you the power of the written word and the importance of writing things down. Remember, this is all for you. Don't worry about what somebody else might think. And if the answers to these questions are so embarrassing or so painful, and money frequently is for men, especially in 2014, write them down, confront them, treat them like opponents, confront them, and then burn the paper. That way you've released yourself. But you've gone through the process. There will come a point where you're going to want to keep track of these words, keep track of these thoughts, keep track of these answers and questions. But the time might not be right now. You want to strengthen yourself and get ready for the hard questions, and then the how do I say this? Because they're already hard questions. But you want to strengthen yourself so that you can handle and put into practice the lessons you'll be learning from yourself and from those around you as we help you to become more self-reliant financially. I hope I'm not going too fast. I don't think I am. All of these things are things that we'll get used to together. So let us know. Give us your feedback at AuthenticMasculinity.com. All right. So we've gone through the 5 critical questions. We're at 15 minutes and almost 16 minutes. So I'm going to move very quickly through this next 4 or 5 minutes. All right. Why do you matter as a provider? You matter as a provider because I'm going to say something very controversial here. All right? Men are better providers. Okay? It doesn't mean women can't be good providers. It doesn't mean women can't excel as providers. Broadly speaking, as a society, as a group, if you compare men and women, men tend to be better providers. We're temperamentally more well suited for it. We're emotionally more well suited for it. We're physically more well suited for it. All of the things that we are make us more well suited as a group to providing for others as men. Now, are there women out there that you could stack me up against and they're better than I am? Absolutely. So you could take one-offs, all right, and due to circumstance or background or experience, you can have, individual women who are better than most men. I don't deny that for a moment. And it takes nothing away from men that that's the case. We don't live in a perfect world. We don't live in a cookie-cutter world where everything is consistent all the time. But what I'm saying, and I think we all know this, women know this too, if they'll sort of just admit it to themselves and think this thing through logically. Men have fewer variables in their lives than do women. The complexity of women makes it a little bit more difficult for them to work effectively as providers on a consistent basis. And in point of fact, they give up a lot more when it comes to the quality of their life than do men if they choose to be the providers for their families. They give up more options. And one of my definitions of happiness is, as you proceed down your path, do you have a greater or fewer numbers of options? For women, they tend to give up more when they become providers. For men, they don't tend to give up as much. Let me give you another quick example. If I said to you, he's a deadbeat dad, you will quickly understand very clearly what I'm saying. We all have a cultural stereotype that is accurate, by the way. Not all stereotypes are not. But if I were to say to you, she's a deadbeat mom, what would your understanding of that be? Please let us know. My point here is that I'm going to assert what most of us take for granted, that men, by and large, are better providers, more consistent, harder working, more well-suited in every sphere as providers, as a group, generally speaking. We're better at it. We're more effective at it. And I guess that's really what I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop right there, all right? The society needs men to be the providers for their family. If women choose to provide and contribute to the provision for the family, that's good. That's good for them. I think it gives them a break from more difficult tasks, actually. But it should not be something that they're forced to do. Men are diminished when women are forced to take care of them. Men are not diminished when women are given the option to take care or contribute to men and the family as an option that they choose to take rather than are forced to take. Men, on the other hand, are strengthened by being forced to account for their labor. Men are strengthened and are better men when they are boxed into a situation where they must do what they're called to do. And I think that's essentially what I would tell you. Challenge me on it, come back, hit me hard on it if you disagree. There's no problem with that. I'm not fragile. Neither are these concepts fragile. We're coming up at 20 minutes, so I'd like to close this down right now. Ask yourself the 5 critical questions. Challenge me on the assertions that I say men are better providers. If you're women listening in, that's fine. But I would also like you to please do it in a way that is polite and courteous, because I'm not rude on this topic. I am asserting these things relatively strongly. But come back and tell me why you believe this to be the case, and challenge me on it. Hold me accountable. That's another question. Men function better outside the home as providers. I'm sure I'll get a lot of traffic on this. We'll answer it in due course. But for right now, let's just proceed on this assumption, or let's proceed on this assertion that men are better providers as a whole, as a rule, in general, than women who are forced to be providers. Okay? Come back at me and let me know your thoughts on this. This will wrap up our provider content. And if you think this got your blood boiling, if you disagree with me, wait till you hear protector. All right. In the meantime, be bold, be authentic, be masculine, be a good provider. Be a good provider for yourself, those you love and lead. We'll dig into a lot of this in greater detail and greater depth as we proceed. Thank you so much. See you on the high ground. Gentlemen, we hope that this content has been helpful to you, and we hope that you will let us know if you disagree or if you agree with whatever we've put in front of you. Thank you for your time and attention. Drop in and see us at authenticmasculinity.com, and in the meantime, be bold, be authentic, be masculine.